Hello, everybody. My name is Israel Jimenez. I am the Director of Community Engagement for Theater Under the Stars. Thank you so much for joining us today. We have a conversation with Executive Director Hillary J. Hart and Artistic Director Dan Knechtges. We're going to get a chance to discuss updates on the upcoming season productions, our new virtual education programming, and how TUTS is navigating this global crisis. Dan, Hillary, welcome. Thank you for doing this. How are you?
Doing well. Thank you so much. We're really looking forward to this evening and so excited to be here and to be with all of you. So thank you for joining us this evening. Super excited.
This is the easiest part of the day.
It really is. It really is.
Most fun part. Thank you for hosting this, Israel.
Of course. Now, when talking about our 2021 season programming, a lot of folks are curious about when the 2021 TUTS season will begin. Specifically, John Harris, Nancy Lees, Cheryl Schaefer, Stephanie McQueen, they're all curious whether the December date for starting the season is realistic without a vaccine, and if the 2021 season will go on as it's currently scheduled.
Yes. Well, this is a great question. And first off, thank you, John, Nancy, Cheryl, Stephanie. I hope I got all of you. Right now, we're planning our December show, Little Mermaid. We have many meetings and more meetings and more planning and budgeting around a safety and protocols to bring that show to life at the Hobby Center within all of the parameters, and then even going a little stricter on some things to make sure that we can do it. Now, I'm a realist. I know Hillary is too. She'll chime in here. And there is a chance that we might not be able to do Little Mermaid because of a government mandate, because of the infection rate is really too high here. So we do have plans in place for what that might be. There also is a reality that we might be able to produce something. It might not be Little Mermaid, which we're also exploring as well. We think it's too early to make that call. So we're trying to preserve everything that we can in the safest way possible.
Yeah, at this time, we are absolutely looking forward to welcoming everybody back in December. We realize that, as we wake up daily, the changes that are happening inside our own community and certainly globally have an impact on the work that we do. We were the first industry, I think, to shut down and will likely be one of the last to come back online. But I do think that, with some very thorough work and towards a re-entry plan is kind of the nomenclature we're giving it right now. It's going to depend on what we're allowed to do, truthfully. We are not in a rush to welcome anybody back into an unsafe environment. We have been working diligently toward a return to work and a re-entry plan that will cover everything from the patron experience to the full-time staff experience to the artist experience. And so we are anticipating coming back in December. We are anticipating making good on the promises that we've made to all of you as our supporters and our subscribers. And certainly there's nothing that Dan and I want more than to be able to celebrate that return with everybody each night of the performance. So right now, the plan is, with what we know today, the plan is that we will be back in December.
That's great. And with that plan, Hillary, Stephanie O'Rear specifically wants to know, are there permanent changes in the entertainment industry that you think will affect or will be in response to the pandemic?
Permanent changes, I think the majority of them, you probably, as a patron experiencing the art form and having an experience with us, you probably won't notice that much. I think that the short-term changes that we're talking about as we start to talk about what does the reentry look like, how can we do that in a safe manner, I think there are some procedures and protocols that we are eager to follow in order to ensure that kind of safe experience. It's everything from making infrastructure adjustments relative to bathrooms, hand sanitization stations, contactless patron experience with digital ticketing, digital programs, things like that. So we're looking at ways to accommodate both our patrons who either require or prefer that point of access, but also to make sure that we're not forgetting about people who, like me, still like to have that paper program or like to have that kind of experience. So it's everything from, you know, patrons, parking, arrival times, to ingress, egress paths, to concessions, you know, and then it absolutely goes beyond the patron experience as we start to look at how do we keep our artists, our stagehands, and our full-time staff, who, if things go well, you never see because they're behind the scenes. But it's about making sure that their safety is in place as well. So, and also making sure that in the unlikely event or in the unfortunate event that if there were to be a positive test, that we have the right protocols in place so that we can do immediate testing, contact tracing, and resume operations in the event that we would ever have to go through a shutdown again.
Could you tell us a little?
I'd like to say, Stephanie, one thing that is, I think, you know, we're experiencing it right now that I think is going to be a permanent change or an addition to what we already do, which is online, Zoom, Vimeo, any of that kind of programming, I think is something that is exciting and only adds to the patron experience if more people can experience a talk like this. And just imagine if it was something artistic, like we were talking about in depth about why Chorus Line is the greatest musical ever written, or why something else is, and then you get to go see it and you get to experience it that way. I think that's a wonderful thing that theater had been very, very slow to adopt and change. And I do think that that's something that is going to be a permanent addition to theater.
I think it's also exciting and interesting to think about the ramifications of digital media. I mean, certainly Dan and I think, agree that there is absolutely no substitute for the in-person experience. Our industry, certainly our mission as a nonprofit is built around community building through communal experience. And so, so that will always be our goal, our focus, our desire to provide those opportunities to the members of our community. But I do think things, you know, as Dan was saying, things that provide access to the art form for people who traditionally might not be able to attend. Anything that breaks down barriers to access, I think, can be a good thing. And so how do we integrate this not really new technology, but new to us technology? How do we integrate that into what we're doing in the future in a meaningful way that does not detract, again, from the primary focus of community building?
Nice. And you touched a little bit on it in terms of our artists who would work with us. What would that look like in terms of coming back and producing shows? I know Victor Kin specifically is curious about actors and musicians that have worked with Tuts and what they would be doing.
Oh, that's a great question, Victor. We've been in contact with all of the various groups that work with us. A lot of people don't realize this, but the theater industry is highly unionized. So we have a lot of agreements with various stakeholders in those areas. The actors are all unionized, and our musicians are all unionized, and our great crew, they're all unionized as well. So we have been in contact with our local orchestra union and the Actors Equity, which is the actors union, and they're doing great. They're all very, very anxious to get back to work. And we have been doing some really crazy things of trying to figure out how what I call in the orchestra the spitters and the non-spitters, and how they can both function in the same space. One thing we've been talking about doing is, in terms of the spitters, I mean the horns, trumpets, French horns, trombones, anybody that's, you know, blowing into a mouthpiece, the reeds, saxophones, clarinet, flute, all of those people that have an spraying aerosols, as they say, we're trying to separate those folks out so that then we can pipe their sound in. We're also talking about possibly having plexiglass enclosures so that they can be there and in the same space as the other orchestra members. So we're really trying a bunch of different avenues for them, but they're doing fine. They're nervous about not coming back to work, but when, as we all are, because we're here today asking those questions. But it's been very challenging to try and figure all of those things out, but I'm confident that we have some good solutions for that.
When you said spitters, I thought you were talking about actors like Jonathan Groff.
An interesting, on one of the webinars that we've been doing, Tuts has been a part of, I've been a part of, and some of the other team with Actors Equity, is their scientist found out that COVID cannot be transmitted through sweat, or this is what they know now. As Hillary has been saying, it changes every day, but what they know now. So I think we're good if we're dancing and sweat is coming off, but you're right, it is. It's like actors spit. So we've been measuring from the edge of the stage how far back we need to be to make sure we're really safe on all of those issues.
Yeah, and this is a conversation that's happening all over the nation, including Broadway. I know Eric Ewan wants to know if our plan coincides with Broadway's plan to resume performances.
The touring market, so if you're speaking specifically of the Hobby Center's Broadway series, that's a touring, you may already know this, I apologize if you do, but it's a touring component, and for the touring business to work, they have to have multiple markets lined up. So even if, using the example, Houston could reopen tomorrow, but Pasadena could not, they wouldn't be able to have the Houston show. Their business model is entirely predicated upon having multiple markets available on a very specific routed tour of stops in different cities. So no, they have some different challenges than we do. Tuts, as a regional nonprofit theater that serves primarily our Houston community with local actors, local artists, we have a slightly different model that allows us to, I think, refine our return date and how we operate and how we respond to the COVID crisis in a slightly different way, which is good, because, you know, we are, as Dan said, we're all eager to get back to work and to welcome everybody back to the theater. So no, our schedule is not tied in any way, shape, or form to the commercial Broadway theater.
Great. So then to clarify, I know Jack Moore, Joanne Gaddis, Ann Anderson, we're all curious, will there be live performances in 2020? Do we anticipate that happening? And if not, when?
Right now, yeah. Right now, we're looking forward to welcoming everybody back in December for our holiday program of The Little Mermaid. So yeah, that's what we're shooting for. It's what we've been working towards.
And when and if that changes, we're going to be very communicative about when that happens. But you know, one of the things that we keep talking about is, and I kind of jokingly say this, is that even though I want to be this, is that we're not Nostradamus. We cannot predict what's coming in the future. So we might get told by the government or by the state or the city of Houston that we can't perform. And when that happens, we're going to be communicating that, and or possibly changing our programming to adapt to that. And you know, all of that information will be there.
Great. Thank you for everybody's questions. I'm seeing a lot of good questions popping up on the chat. And one that is coming up a lot, this one's from Shaila Master, but also from folks like Janet Lamonte, Donna Kessler, Mary Watson. They're all wondering if we do come back in 2020 with our holiday show, what would it look like in terms of guest safety? What would we do to uphold the health and safety recommendations?
So right now, for anyone that might not know, we are the primary resident tenant of the Hobby Center, but we are not the owner or the manager of that venue. So we've been working very, very closely with our colleagues at the Hobby Center to create a reentry plan for not only our staff and our artists, but also for our patrons. And so many of the protocols, certainly all of the protocols, are predicated upon current, and please know that this plan is organic, and that as we learn more and new recommendations are coming from the CDC and from our doctors and our local municipal leaders, we are able to adapt that plan in response to it. So it's a very responsive plan to the current conditions that we'll find ourselves in on any given production or in any given time period from here moving forward. But that plan includes everything from parking protocols to ingress, egress pathways for our patrons to ensure proper airflow. There are infrastructure modifications that are being made to the building relative to air handlers and air purifying. Certainly the cleaning schedule has been much more robust and will continue to grow, especially as we start to welcome people back into the building. There will be hand sanitizer stations. And then we are looking at some contactless opportunities where patrons can come in, digital ticketing, digital programs, contactless concession opportunities. So we're looking at pretty much everything. And that also does include, what does social distancing look like inside our auditorium should we need to deploy that. And we're working through a couple of different models on what that looks like based on what we think the parameters may or may not be come December and beyond. So we're looking at everything from basically the moment you arrive at 800 Bagby until the moment you leave. We are looking at absolutely every touch point that a patron would have with our organization and certainly with the venue, and working very closely with the Hobby Center to ensure that it runs smoothly, that it is secure, that it is safe, and that if there are any challenges or issues, that they are addressed immediately in the moment. So please also know that this is all information that will be sent out to our entire patron base as know before you go. So you'll know what to expect when you arrive. You'll know what the requirements are for the venue related to masking and that kind of thing. So know that that information is being refined right now. I didn't want to say developed because we've already done the plan, but we are refining it. And as we get closer to the event horizon of welcoming people back, we will start releasing information so that people have an opportunity to digest that, but then also to ask questions if you have very specific questions relative to your particular experience.
And Hillary, I wanted to double back on something you just said, which is great, is that we're also developing it with some medical professionals in town, right?
Correct, yeah.
I want to mention that. Yeah.
Yeah, our task force is incredibly robust, and we are incredibly fortunate to have them. Our task force is made up of not only executive leadership at both Hobby Center and Theater Under the Stars. It's made up of additional staff members. It's made up of municipal leaders. It's made up of doctors. We have a formal partnership with Methodist that they are weighing in. They have reviewed the plan. They continue to review the plan as certain pieces of it evolve. They poke holes in it and they say, have you thought about this? They are providing us with contact tracing and testing services. So in the event that we, one, we can be proactive in keeping the virus out of the building, but also in the, you know, as I say, unfortunate and highly unlikely event that there were to be a case, a positive test, that we could then very quickly identify it and do all of the things according to CDC recommendations as well as OSHA. So we have a very robust, it is relying on the expertise of professionals in their field that are far beyond anything I could even begin to dream about. So yeah, we're taking this very seriously, using science as our guiding, as our compass. So.
And Hillary, the other thing that you're bringing up that I want to touch on, which is we do not operate the hobby center, that we are tenants ostensibly. We are the primary resident company there, but we do not operate the hobby center. So that comes with a bunch of other challenges. And we've been working really great with them, I think, on this in terms of refining all of those things you talked about with the facility itself, but also how we're going to design a safe audience experience. So there are challenges. So when people say that they don't like a certain aspect of how the usher works or how the drink is so expensive, that's actually, I wish we had control, but we don't. And those are some challenging things as we go forward.
But they are things too. I mean, even things along those lines are things that we are in close communication with the Hobby Center with, and they have so far been responsive insofar as they can be. So we're fortunate to have people that are interested and willing to collaborate with us.
That's great. More specifically, and continuing with the safety topic, a lot of questions are coming up about specific seating and the arrangement with the Hobby Center and how does seating would work in this case. Wendy Nugent, for example, has a group of 5 that she wants to bring in and watch the show with her family together. What could we do to make that happen?
First off, thank you for bringing 5 people to the show. I love you. I don't even know you. I love you. Thank you so much for that. We are working on it's complicated on especially if we don't get past a certain phase and we have to reduce our seating capacity to 20%. And that it's going to be very difficult, and we might have to make the call that we're not able to do the show at that point, because it really is difficult to do social distancing on the subscription model. However, it gets worlds better once we start getting up into 50%, possibly even 75%, in the way that we social distance in the house. Yes, we are taking all of those things into consideration and are going to keep those families together. And we'll be in constant communication. And Israel, was her name Wendy? I'm forgetting. Wendy?
Mm-hmm.
And so I would just say, Wendy, please be in constant communication with us as well. Please email, I believe you can email us through tuts.com if you don't have somebody that you're working with, and we will be sure to address that.
We're looking at, just to be a little relative to seating, we are looking at what social distancing. We've mapped out a couple of different scenarios relative to social distancing in couples and groups and that kind of thing. So we're running those models to see how we can best accommodate all of our subscribers, because I mean, in truth, you are our priority, and so we're working on ways to ensure that you are taken care of.
So recognizing that there's some unknowns, and we've already had to make some cancellations in our programming. What does it look like for our subscribers, for example, who have subscribed to a selection of our shows this season, with the possibility that a show might change or might be canceled? Would they be looking into a refund, or what would that look like for them? So
you probably received this information. I hope you received this information. I'm sure you received this information from our box office, and certainly as part of the subscription package. But we have, prior to the COVID pandemic impacting our business, we have a refund policy. We have a money-back guarantee policy that is effective until November 2nd. You don't have to make any decisions right now, because so much changes every morning when we wake up. Something has changed. But just know that as a subscriber, you have that money-back guarantee in place for you, so you have some time to think about it and decide. Know that our primary intention is to present a season. But certainly, if you have questions, if you have concerns, you should feel very free to reach out to our guest services offices and our customer service reps and have a conversation with them. We're intent on making sure, again, that we're holding you as closely as we can and making sure that we support you as best we can. So just know that if at any time, prior to November 2nd, you decide that you'd like to talk to someone and potentially ask for a refund, that is absolutely an option. After that, I think, again, you want to reach out to customer service and have a very direct conversation with them about what your options are. But we have multiple options, the same way we did when we canceled Pure Country and Newsies. There are multiple options that also allow you to credit your account for future shows. So you don't have to necessarily take back the investment that you've made in us.
And if, for instance, they don't like South Pacific and they want only to see Rock of Ages, you can move those tickets and get 4 for Rock of Ages. There's many options. I say, I know I was reading some of the questions. One coming up says, how can we best support Tuts? And a low entry support is buy season tickets. Tell everybody, it really does help. It really contributes greatly to the bottom line for us. And there are so many options. That's the kind of bargain I think that we give, is that you get 6 great shows, but there's a lot of options within that to move around.
Yeah, I hate asking about cancellations because it's been heartbreaking to have lost the opportunity to do Newsies and Pure Country this year, specifically Pure Country. Like, we created this show, as a new work, and we're going to be able to expose it to Houston here. Is there any possibility that those shows will come back? I know Eric Ewan, Brenda Woodbury, Tracy McMullen, they're all hoping that they will. Is that a possibility?
Eric, Brenda, and Tracy, thank you for this question. I have been waiting for this to be teed up because, yes, the answer is yes. I cannot say the exact date, but I am looking at it for next season. It was tragic, especially in the case of Pure Country, because we spent so much time developing that show. A lot of laughter, a lot of yelling at each other, a lot of really great stuff. But I always say diamonds are created under pressure, and we were really ready to deliver a big Broadway scale new musical, which Tuts incidentally hasn't done on that scale, at least, in about 20 years. So that was going to be it was a huge loss. We have the set already. We have the costumes basically ready. And so we are going to be programming that. Newsies too. We have a very long and very strong relationship with Disney Theatricals. We're one of a few theater companies in the country that they look to in terms of what the market can bear for some of these titles. And we will be doing Newsies, hopefully not in this upcoming season, but the season after. So yes, the answer is yes.
That's awesome. And Dan, like, one of the coolest things about being artistic director is you get to select a whole season. Like, how does that happen? I know from reading some of our comments, there are subscribers that love well-known shows. There's other subscribers who are like, I want a show that I've never seen and get to experience themes that are relevant. How does that happen? How do you go about selecting a set of productions?
Well, it's so funny you said, oh, the cool thing, you get to choose. Well, in the end, it's my choice, but getting there, it's a group effort. And I look to Hillary all the time, and we cannot be successful unless the budget backs it up. The budget tells the story, and she is rock solid on that. Much to my consternation sometimes, but So it's a group effort. And in fact, our director team, you know, Israel, you know, you were a part of helping, you know, choose some of these shows and, you know, looking at some of them, and the whole team basically does it. We also have an artistic advisory council. I'm not sure if any of them are on the webinar with us, but they're made up of community members and board members that give their thoughts and opinions on some shows. But it really is a dichotomy here when you're talking about well-established shows, Oklahoma, Chorus Line, versus some of the newer shows, Ragtime, Spring Awakening, Once on This Island, some of those type shows, Pure Country even. And so there is a push-pull there of where some people think, oh, I don't want to go. I've seen Oklahoma before. Or, ooh, I don't want to go see Spring Awakening, or I don't want to go see Pure Country because it's new and modern. Which, as I'm saying it, I'm always, me personally, my taste is I'm a theater animal. I go to everything, and I tend to like stuff you know, in all sorts of areas. And I know not everyone is like that. But what I hope is the dialogue between Tuts and our audience is that when they come to see Oklahoma, I want them to know that they are seeing it will not exist in any other way except the way that we do that production of Oklahoma. And I think we did that with the beautiful production of Oklahoma that we did with Houston Ballet that led off the 50th anniversary season. We had 60 people on that stage, a full Broadway orchestra, which you never get anymore on those things. And we really committed ourselves to that. And it really, I think, shed light on a lot of things that were coming to play in modern life. So I hope people give us that grace that we can look at old shows and still find something modern in them, even if you had seen them before. Same with Chorus Line. Our production of Chorus Line, in my opinion, was the best production of Chorus Line that I have ever seen, including 2 Broadway revivals. And I was very proud of it. And I think it brought out things in that show that hadn't been brought out before. And then on the other hand, I think newer work like Spring Awakening and Newsies and Pure Country coming up, that those shows, I hope people will give the grace to those shows as well and understand why, especially in cases like Ragtime or Spring Awakening, why are these shows good? Why do other people, and many people in the industry, find these shows to be exemplary shows and award-winning shows? And I think single-handedly dismissing it just because it's modern or perhaps the subject matter isn't quite to our liking is shortchanging not only the show, but I think shortchanging ourselves as theater goers. And I hope that grace can be given to both of those. And I want to continue exploring both of those, giving exciting revivals, exciting new shows, and also one thing Hillary and I have been working on very diligently and is securing pre-Broadway tryouts of musicals. And we've been making some inroads there, and I hope in a future season we're going to be able to announce some of those as well. That was a long-winded answer. I'm so sorry. Hillary.
No, you're the artistic director and certainly the creative brain in those ways, and certainly in this room. But I would say that, you know, in the time that we've worked together, and certainly in service to Tuts and in service to the Houston community, we and you specifically have been very conscientious about how certain storylines and certain shows fit into the broader narrative of conversations that are happening inside our communities, that we have an opportunity to provide a safe haven of exploration for those themes that may be more challenging or not as easily accessed So I would say that a lot of the story making of the arc of the seasons that you create, typically, one, they complement each other as individual shows, but they also tell a story that is intended to address some of the conversations that we're hearing through our students, through our subscribers, through our donors, things that are happening inside our schools. So I think as an organization, we're pretty conscientious. You use Disney, and so I'll use the analogy of, you might not like the Magic Teacup ride, but you love Disney. So I'm hoping that you might not like a particular show, but that you will continue to love Tuts.
And Israel, there was a question on there about public works. I'm going to turn it on you for, I don't know if you saw that question about public works and working with our partners on that. But one of the things that, if we're talking about programming that I think is such a hallmark of Theater Under the Stars, and now we're amping it up 100%, is that community involvement. And, they're asking about how we're dealing with that coming up. And what I would love, I'm kind of teeing you up here, is how are they all doing?
It's been a challenging time for our partners, especially since we were so used to getting together physically in one room, doing incredible arts programming. The Public Works is a transformative program. It really takes communities throughout Houston and connects them, not just with the arts, with Tuts, but with each other. And essentially, it culminates with a massive epic production, usually at Outdoor Miller. This year, we're planning to do The Music Man. And these are communities from all walks of life coming in together, learning from each other, and getting to put on a production, put on a full-fledged out musical. So they're doing great. And the exciting thing about what's happening now with this crisis is that we're able to start thinking of innovative ways to still connect with them through discussions, even through Zoom, virtual programming, and ways to have them still connect with each other, still have the impact of what Public Works is in just a different way. And I love what you were mentioning before in terms of season selection, and how that can really represent the diversity that we have here in Houston. So
you're muted.
I'm muted. Forgive me. I mean, yes. One of the other things that has happened and is a great thing, I think, and has been noticed by many, many people, is the diversity on our stage and our casting. We have a great team doing that. Megan, who is the Associate Artistic Director, and Olson, who is an Artistic Associate, work very hard on making sure that not only do we have really, really talented people on that stage, but it's also from a wide swath all over Houston of every different creed, religion, ethnicity, and it's really representing the thing that I love best about Houston, which is its diversity. And I've been saying this, I said it in my interview to get this job, I think I even mentioned it to Hillary, is that good musical theater started on the Lower East Side of New York City, where everybody was it was a melting pot of a lot of different cultures at a time that was of unrest, and it produced one of the singular greatest American exports I can think of. And Houston is prime, I'm telling you, to be one of those places, because it is so diverse and such a great city, celebrating all of those different cultures.
So Dan, Hillary, what is it going to take to get us back in full force and back on the stage? I know a lot of it has to do with what's going on, but also in terms of fundraising. I know, like Philip Moravito, for example, wants to make a donation he can't commit to a large amount necessarily.
That's
But want to know, like, will a smaller amount even make a difference? What can they do to help out what's going on right now?
Absolutely. Thank you, Phil, so much for asking that question. That is amazing. And the truth is every dollar right now is a lifeline. When our industry, specifically our organization, our revenue breakout is about 65% earned to 40-45% contributed revenue, depending on the season and the year and the title selection and all of that. And the truth is we are losing the opportunity. So for instance, right now, as of what we're calling fiscal year 20, which ends at the end of August, we are going to recognize, our projections right now show that we'll be recognizing a $6 million loss in revenue because of all of the programming that we've had to cancel, amend, or otherwise postpone and reschedule. And so there's $6 million in this year. Our projections for next year right now, we're projecting about a $5 million loss in revenue from the approved, very balanced budget from last year. And so, every dollar right now is a lifeline for us. And so, we also recognize, and it's part of the reason why, truthfully, we haven't been particularly aggressive about publicly fundraising. We do have a COVID relief emergency fund that you can find on our website. We can provide you more information if you like. But we have a $4 million goal for that, but we haven't been particularly aggressive because the fact of the matter is we're all in this together. And we recognize and appreciate that as we, as an industry and as an organization, are going through some challenges, our community is too, as individuals, as members of companies, as owners of companies. Every business has been impacted not only by COVID, but also by what I'll call, I don't even know if it's residual, and it's almost like catch-22 stock market, oil and gas. And so, we've been particularly sensitive up till now, but please, if it's a dollar, fantastic. If you can't give anything at all, but you can be an advocate on our behalf, that is equally valuable to us. We have been pretty diligent in the last several years related to making sure people are helping people to understand, or providing information for people to understand that we are so much more than what you see on our stages. We have 2 schools that we run. One is the Humphrey School of Musical Theater, which is an academy conservatory-based training program. And then we have the River, which is our school that is dedicated to persons with disabilities. And we use our art form to provide arts education access, but also to provide opportunities for life skill building. So, and then we have all these amazing community engagement programs as well, like Public Works, like a program we're doing with Children's Memorial Hermann Hospital, Arts and Medicine, where we go into the hospital and work with chronically and terminally ill children. And that's just 2 of many, many programs that we do. So every opportunity we have to have an advocate or an ambassador out there in the world is incredibly useful to us as well. So don't, don't worry about that. And Dan, I think may have said it earlier, buy tickets, yes, there are questions right now. We're so far out from the beginning of when our season is going to start in December. And we understand that there's some sensitivity around pre-purchasing something, but that is actually one of the best ways that you can help us right now. So, there are many, many ways that you can engage with us and be supporters and be advocates. And it doesn't have to come in the form of a really big gift. It really is about a combination of all of that.
So the show will go on.
It will. It definitely will. Yeah.
You mentioned some of our programming, specifically the Humphrey School for Musical Theater and the River. What is happening with them in terms of programming? Will there be classes this fall? Would they be virtual or in person?
Yes, the Humphrey School of Musical Theater is our school for those of our subscribers who don't know that we run. It's an after-school program that we house at the Hobby Center, and our students train in musical theater. And we had to quickly switch to online classes for the last, I think, 2 or 3 weeks This year, we went completely online for the summer. And then in the fall, we haven't announced it yet, but that's coming this week for the parents that are on here, is that we are going to be doing a few classes in person, but the majority are going to be online, especially anything that involves speaking or singing, because as we know now, who knows, this might change, but what we know now is that transmits the aerosol and the virus very easily and quickly. But we are exploring having dance classes in person, as that has happened around the country at several dance studios. My niece takes dance in Ohio, and she's been wearing her mask, and she's evenly spaced out. And she said, "Oh my gosh, this is it's so much better than dancing by myself in my room." So we're going to explore that for the fall, knowing full well that might have to go online too. As far as the River is our school for students with disabilities to be able to train and express themselves through musical theater. It is a great, great school. One of my favorite things. Those students bring me the most joy, teach me the most about myself. And we went online for the summer, and we're going to be going online for the fall. As most people know, they are those students particularly are in a high-risk category, and we wouldn't want to make anything unsafe for them. And also, their facility right now is closed, and they don't know when that's going to open. So that was part of what we did. The great thing, Israel, you might not know this, is that all of our programming this summer was a nice warm-up and training to get all of these classes online in the fall. And they have been doing outstanding in terms of a lot of very satisfied parents, it seems, and people re-signing up and then getting new students. So I think especially the dynamic programming that the River has been doing, we, as far as I know, are one of the very few in the country that does musical theater training for students with disabilities, and we're doing it online. So I feel like we're a player. That's because incredible. We're doing that. Yeah, it's great.
Well, we love our families at the schools. We have some great moms at Humphrey School Theater and at the River. Anna Anderson, one of our moms that we love, she wants to know, like, will our teens be a part of the shows?
Hi, Anne. I have to disclose that Anne is Swedish, as is my heritage. My mother is Swedish, so I have a very, very close connection with Anne there. Thank you for sharing your son with us at Tuts. We've really enjoyed having him at the Humphrey School, and what a joy it is to be able to work with him. We don't know. That is the short answer, and the honest answer is it is always on the #1 priority for us when it is possible and when it makes sense to have our students involved in the shows. It was something Hillary and I were both very, very resolute about, in that it serves our mission and I think makes our shows better when it's appropriate. Certainly at Christmas, we really try to do that. So we don't know is the answer. And part of my hesitation is that all of the shows right now are really overburdened a little bit with all of the practices and policies that we're going to have to put in place because of COVID. As those relax, as the vaccine comes, as the transmission rates get to acceptable levels, then I think it really does open up those possibilities. But we're going to have to course correct. I'm not going to say pivot, but we're going to have to course correct quickly on those, and we will. And we'll make sure to tell you. But I wish I had something more definite, Anne, but I don't.
Dan, will that also open the possibility for a gala? I know one of the things we had to cancel this year is our gala in March. I was so excited. We had Audra McDonald. I
I
had my
was so excited to be able to tell all my Audra McDonald stories from working with her on 110 in the Shade.
That would have been a dream come true. Just to
Wow.
meet her. Is there a possibility of it happening? Would it be different?
Hillary.
Yes. Yes, we have officially rescheduled the gala for November 7th. Right now, we are planning again because we realize that we are in uncertain times and we don't know what environment we will wake up to on November 6th or 7th, the day leading into and up to and is. So we are planning right now a hybrid event with the backup of a fully virtual event. So right now, our goal is to have a limited number of people that can be in attendance with appropriate social distancing and all of those protocols in place to ensure that we're maintaining safety, but also to provide an opportunity and an avenue by which people who either are not comfortable or once we reach a certain cap for the room that we're in, that we are able to be transparent about and offer still an opportunity for people to engage and to attend the event. I think one of the things that I'm most excited about is that we've been working very closely with our partner on this, which is the Post Oak Hotel. And for those people who choose to attend virtually, we have some pretty exciting there's a phrase that runs around inside our organization that is coined by Kyle, our director of marketing, called surprise and delight. But so we have some very surprising and delightful things for those people who choose to attend virtually that I think will make it very much worth the ticket and the opportunity to attend virtually. So yes, November 7th, mark it on your calendar as a save the date. We're in the process of securing our headlining talent who will also, in the event that we aren't able to have a fully in-person event, will provide a performance virtually. So we won't lose out on that at all. But yeah, November 7th, we've rescheduled it. So I'm really looking forward to us being able to actually do the full release. And once we have our talent in place, which I'm expecting any day, confirmation for that, then we'll be sending out a whole bunch of information. But you can go to our website. There is a page on our website that's specific to the gala to get a little bit more information if you're interested.
Awesome. Talking about talent, we have great talent here in our town, and we have local artists here who are wondering about auditions, and will they take place? How will they take place?
Well, right now, the plan is to do virtual auditions, but all of that information is on Tuts, will be coming on tuts.com and on our Facebook page. So that's where we post all of those things. If you are involved with the Actors Union, Actors Equity, you can also go to their website. But if you're not equity, which we also do cast quite a bit of non-equity talent who then becomes equity, which is a great thing. That will be up on the website as well. So just check that out, tuts.com and on our Facebook page.
With some virtual submissions. The cool thing about what's happening is there's new opportunities for technology. I know the highlight of my 4th of July weekend was watching Hamilton on Disney Plus. And Laura Velasquez wants to know, is it a possibility that we could do something similar where our productions are filmed and streamed? How realistic is that?
She is speaking to me. She is speaking to me. I love this question. The short answer is no. I mean, one of the things we've been exploring is trying to do this. The difference between Hamilton is Hamilton has quite a bit of money that they invested in that, which it does take quite a bit of money to start it up. So we've been exploring those options, but it is very, very difficult. Hillary, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to chide you a little bit in that, Dan is correct. It is 100% a different animal when you're looking at a regional theater that self-produces as opposed to a tour that, quite frankly, probably already had the production captured in some way, and it was about editing it in order to make it presentable to a broadcast platform. That being said, you know, Dan, I think mentioned this a little earlier, that the theater industry is a highly unionized industry. And so though we have our own relationships with each of the unions that represent the actors. There's a separate union that represents the stagehands. There's a separate union that represents directors, choreographies, and then orchestra members, and so on and so forth. And so we have to negotiate with each of them the ability to broadcast. Our ability to function as an industry is predicated upon live audience and having that experience in a theater venue. And so when you start traversing into what is jurisdiction that is covered by television and film, you suddenly start getting into territory that one is infinitely more expensive than what a nonprofit would pay. So we start looking at television and film rates. And right now, the way our collective bargaining agreements are structured, it is cost prohibitive for us to mount a brand new production and then capture it and then broadcast it. Now, that being said, we are in conversations with our unions right now to figure out, at least in the short term, if there is a way for us to compromise on the provisions that are inside our collective bargaining agreements that would allow us to do just that. Not only in the event that we couldn't, say, have an audience at all, but also so that we could find a way for people who may be uncomfortable coming back to the theater right away, that we could have a remote audience option for our subscribers. So those conversations are happening. Yes, it is very difficult. There are a lot of hoops to jump through, and we've definitely been jumping through many of them since March. But we are working towards finding out whether or not that is a viable option for us, because we agree it actually would be lovely. And I also think it's kind of an exciting, one of the things we've talked about before as a team is that it's kind of exciting to see how this new technology is going to impact us moving forward, you know, and not that there will ever be any substitute to us coming together and building community together, but the idea truly that, you know, this could be something that breaks down a barrier to access for people who ordinarily cannot get to the theater, either because of transportation or because of a medical condition or because of anything, really. The idea that would be an option is kind of exciting to think about as we start to integrate new technology into our work. So,
Hillary, Dan, thank you so much for being a part of this.
Oh my God, is it 7 already?
Oh my God, this went so fast.
I hope we answered a lot of questions. I hope there aren't too many left over.
And there are tons of questions, and know that even if we can't answer those questions on air right now, we are happy to add guest services at tuts.com. Send us a note there. We'll connect with you. We are so glad you're able to join us. This is the start of our official Theater Under the Stars Spotlight Webcam series. We have a great lineup to introduce to you. Stay tuned, because there's also a podcast coming through. Our founder, Frank Young, left us an incredible legacy, including this amazing vinyl record collection of musical theater records, which we get to select one every episode and get to explore some of the themes. So thank you so much. I'm gonna leave you with a very important last question from our audience. And this is from the topic of, what is your favorite musical?
Oh gosh. Well, so there are different lists for different questions. So there's a best, what do I consider the best musicals, but then my favorite, of which some, you know, they land on both. But I would say A Chorus Line is at top of my list. It just really speaks to me. And what I love about it is I can see myself in every one of those characters, and I think most of us can too. So I love that. I'm also going to say two others, which are good stories. Dreamgirls is one of my all-time favorites. The emotion, the energy, the dancing. I love Dreamgirls more than anything. And then I would also say Follies, which is an interesting story about Tuts and Follies, is that show, it's about old Folly showgirls reliving their past. So you need an older cast, and then you need a younger cast. And of the younger cast, you need several very, very tall showgirls. So it's very, very expensive. There's one theater company in the entire world that has done the show twice. Theater Under the Stars.
That's true.
And I kid Hillary, I'm like, let's go for a third.
We'll see. We'll see. Yeah. I was going to tease you, Dan, about having like massive caveat, but I'm about to insert one myself. I actually don't have a one favorite. There are moments inside multiple musicals that speak to me and have spoken to me over different time periods in my life. I saw Miss Saigon at a very early age, and did not fully appreciate it until certain scenes from it until after I had my son. And so there are songs that even now, just thinking about them, I start to get a little tight in the throat because I'm just like, ooh, protect your son, you know? So there's that, you know, and then there are moments inside classics like Les Mis. There are moments inside newer works like Hadestown, which is absolutely a phenomenal thing. And I'm hoping and excited that it'll come to Houston. But it's there are just moments inside musicals that I find a very deep appreciation for, and I think that makes for. So I have a hard time saying I have a favorite because my favorites are the moments that I find inside with which I can connect, and that's kind of for me the magic of our art form. So
Israel, what's your favorite?
Yeah,
that's an easy one for me. In the Heights, 100%. Story about community and family, and the families that you build together with community.
Yeah.
Just incredible, with a lot of heart. Thank you so much for joining us. The curtain will rise again. It's very clear, and we're looking forward to seeing everybody back on our theater once again.
Thank you everyone for being here. Thank you for taking time out of your evening to be with us. We so appreciate it.
Thanks.
Have a good night.